Let's just get all the deep sighs out of the way. Nice little stretch. I didn't put on deodorant. That's fine. I just got out the shower, by the way. So usually I upload videos on Saturday, but today is actually Sunday. And honestly, there is so much that has happened this week, so much that I've learned, discovered, that I probably didn't get everything down for today's video. I tried to write some stuff down. Everything I wrote down was today, or everything that I wrote down today. I never wrote anything down during the week, even though a lot happened. It's probably because a lot happened, but where did I even begin? We've gone over with the sickness. Right now, I'm on a break. I don't go back to my school in like 18 days, so plenty of free time. Believe me, we're gonna make the most out of it. I'm a bit exhausted. Last night, I kind of didn't sleep. But who needs sleep anyways, am I right? Sorry, I'm kind of looking at my hair at this. I don't prefer this style, but I was so sick that I couldn't even get myself to do my hair. And I'm not gonna do my hair for the rest of this break just to save time. Because usually doing my hair will take about 2 to 4 hours, so just to save on time. But yeah, I guess I'll go ahead and get into it. I'm sure there's much more I could have said for an introduction, but alright. So during this week, I made, I guess, a lot, or rather, I was in my head a lot. Lots of thoughts, lots of things to process. Thinking about the future, but this week I learned of self-analysis and just analysis in general. Taking a look at something and, I guess, taking apart all the pieces, whether it be my personality, how people see me, the best strategy for applying to jobs at my current level, all of that stuff. Analysis. Unfortunately, this video might not be the best. I have lots to say, but I don't exactly have the energy or the mind really there, but I'll try my best. So, first thing that we'll do is actually this. So, there we go. Now, I went ahead and tried to, I guess, write as much as I can. You see, we had Junction Points, gym, women, of course, personal focus, Japanese income, self-analysis, and the man I ought to be. Now, let's start with Junction Points. Junction Points. Now, Junction Points. What are Junction Points? Junction Points is a term I created. I don't know when. I don't know the exact date. I feel like I thought I wrote it down. I guess I did. But Junction Points. Junction Points are... how do I explain this? I got the name from Warframe. What a great introduction. But in Warframe, when you, I guess, when you go to like the entrance of another planet, it's called like a junction event, junction something. But essentially, the reason why this is called Junction Points, and the reason why this is so crucial and important, is because junction points are things you can do, ideas, mindsets, certain things you could train that can target multiple skills, right? So think of it like the bench press. Me using my gym bro analogy. I water in my ears. Think of like the bench press. The bench press trains chest, triceps, shoulders, some stabilizers, serratus interior, perhaps. The bench press is a compound movement that can train multiple muscles at once. One of the best upper body compound movements we have, right? You could also say like the pull up or the squat. The landmine rotation, that's also pretty good. But it could target multiple things at the same time. And this discovery was actually from talking to well, she's not mine, but talking to Mercedes as Edmund does when he is in prison. But my goodness. But something that she would tell me, and she often says this, is she's like, "Oh, tell me a joke." I'm like the last person to tell her a joke. Like you can already tell by my monotone voice, I'm not the type to really joke and all that stuff. But I believe that I was thinking of how oftentimes, not just attractiveness to women, but just being attractive to people in general. Someone who could really joke around and stuff like that and have humor and be somewhat light can, I guess, make you an attractive person in a way. And of course, this is the opposite of me. I'm usually more focused on whatever goal I have or analyzing something, thinking deeply, thinking about the big questions. So I usually don't do well in social circles because I'm mainly just quiet. You'll hear like my friend is talking about some dumb stuff. I usually don't participate. I'll be the guy that walks off during hangouts and stuff like that. So I remember thinking, I don't know, I remember thinking about initially I was just gonna try and be more funny, try to have some jokes. And thing is, like with me and her, we have very different senses of humor. In fact, we're completely different people in many different ways. But I thought that, maybe I should try to be funny and a bit entertaining. Not just for her, but just like in general. For, I guess, future people I may meet and stuff like that. And one thing led to another. And I was thinking of how I could really be this type of person. And of course, as always, most, if not all of my contemplations are discussed directly with ChatGPT. But I was told to be more playful. And there were probably other words thrown around similar to that, but playful was the word that really stuck out to me. The idea of play. Like, I'm on the phone with this girl, let's have fun. Let's enjoy ourselves. That word play specifically is like, it's the word that really calls out to me because the play is like the last thing I'm ever thinking about. I don't play video games. I'm not out here like, oh, I'm in Japan. Let's go explore and have fun and explore. Like, no, let's build a future. But so I guess play being the key word, the idea to keep in my mind of what to be. And the thing about being playful, and the reason why the term junction point was even formed in the first place, is because when you're playful, you are humorous, you're lighthearted, you are more relaxed. There's probably a bunch of other things I can't think of, but a lot of different things can be combined into simply being, I don't know, having fun, nice smile and stuff like that. Now, of course, I'm not exactly like the most outgoing. Maybe I could change that, but that one simple trick did help me to be more lighthearted, have fun, make more jokes. Even something else, I don't know if I mentioned it here. I mentioned it at some point. But being quick witted, that's something that I don't really do. And that's something I kind of have to specifically train. Like, because usually my thoughts, all of my thoughts are like deep contemplations, things that I really ruminate over. Ruminate was a vocab word this week. But so, and I guess also being silly is part of it. Like sometimes when I'm talking to Mercedes, she'd be like, I'll be talking about carpets, and she'd be like, "Oh, you look like a carpet." Just like throw that out there. Like what? And I'm over here thinking like, but I guess also being playful is learning to be quick witted. So throwing back comebacks, saying stupid stuff, just having fun. So that's why Junction Points was formed. And I decided to take this a step further. And I wanted to train multiple skills because I'm about to show you a little thing I made at some point. But there are many things I want to train, many skills I want to practice. But if there's a way for me to train multiple at the same time, then why not take them? But I decided to go one step further. I decided that I decided to seek out the junction points, the things that will really make everything easier. And that ultimately came down to four things. So the first junction point, first large one, is learning how to learn. Learning how to learn. That includes in understanding how your brain processes information, knowing the steps of learning something, so that you can truly understand and apply. And it was so important that I'm over here having to actually write down notes on it. But of course, I have a long way to go. I've yet to finish it. But learning how to learn. Obviously, there's a lot of things I want to learn. So if I could learn how to learn, the idea is to at least speed up the process, at least a little bit. Because my whole life, I will be learning, I will be improving, seeking to be better. Right? I guess. So number two. Number two is regulating the mind. Right. So disciplining yourself, being aware of yourself, not controlling, but understanding, observing your emotions. There's a lot to it that most of us don't really learn in training. So I believe that's all I have to say about that. Now, the third one, I think actually the third junction point, major junction point. Actually, I believe I call these the four pillars, but the third one, son, the third one, someone, the third one is communication. Now, communication is a skill that I've already, I guess, sought to work on, but communication is something that we are regarding as one of the most important things to learn. Simply transferring your idea, your thoughts, your views, your opinions, your perspective to someone else. Being able to communicate ideas, influence minds, persuade, argue, all of that. I think it's very underrated, and even now I can't grasp the full importance of it, or I guess the potential, but or at least not all of it. And then the fourth thing is systems and analysis, which is something that I already do naturally. And that would be like simply observing how your mind works, like that type of analysis, or observing even something simple as like, oh, if I eat this peanut butter and jelly sandwich, I'll probably feel tired. Observing these things, being aware, being conscious of how things work and such. Those are the four things that I have deemed as most important and will likely aid me throughout life. These are things that will touch in many, if not all, fields. So, there is that. I didn't even look at my notes, to be honest. I just started talking. But anything? Oh, interesting, yes. Does the heavy. Okay. Junction points. I hope I don't sound like stupid saying this. Junction points are great for targeting mini skills, improving yourself overall. You could by a large margin. But at some point, specialized training will be necessary, and I will later show examples of areas in my life where I will need specialized training. But it's like a bench press. I hear that, wow. Initially, when you're doing the bench press, you just simply go heavy. You will train your neuromuscular system and muscular adaptation and such, training the myofibrils to output the maximum amount of force they can use, they can output, they can produce. But it'll get to a point, where you will need to identify any weaknesses and, as I saw in the video, train the hard stuff to get good at the easy stuff. So that's your close grip bench, your pause bench, your, I don't know, all of those bench press variations to get better at the bench press, right? Anyways, next, pretty simple. We have the gym. Now, I don't know when. It was a leg day. Was it a leg day? Yeah, I think it was a leg day. Was it a leg day? It's fine. But there was a day where I was pretty tired and I already decided I'm not going to do any heavy strength work. And what I decided to do was I was just going to go to the gym and do a nice light hypertrophy session, right? And what I ended up doing, I was actually so tired that I lowered the weight to a pretty significant amount. Like, I don't know, women weight, if you want to say that. But it kind of, at the same time, what I started to do was actually focus more on the movement. And essentially, what this better hypertrophy session thing really says, let me fix that, is that now, oh yes, now I will, wow, the fatigue. Now, I'm sorry. But now I will actually focus more on the movements and proper technique and such. Now, technique for improving the strength lift. This was more for the bench press. I've been struggling with my bench press. Unfortunately, back in the US, I was up to like 220, but now here in Japan, I am struggling at 190. It's really irritating, honestly. Well, not really, but my technique needs to be improved. Like I remember when I was doing the bench press, I would have like my triceps specifically would be like just like locked, not locked, but it'd be really hard to move the tricep. I assume what was happening is like when I was doing the bench press. I don't know if you can see this. Let me switch over this. I was doing the bench press. Like the bar is here. If you like see this line, you bring it like down and all. I think what was happening was my hand was like in front of the elbow, like slightly. And I was kind of like pushing it outwards, like over here somewhat. And that's what was causing it. So I decided like to try my best to have my wrist a little bit before behind my elbow, and that seemed to really help. So yeah, that's that. Now, of course, as you know, we are struggling financially, so I recently discovered the greatness of ramen. Right, that thing had like 700 calories. I was like, bet, because I've been struggling with calories, of course, so I can't complain. So it looks like our meals will look like a pack of ramen and 2 eggs, which is all right. I have some oatmeal, and I guess I still have that protein powder. I unfortunately bought this mass gainer, which wasn't kind of a mass gainer. I think it was like some, just like additional carbohydrates or something. Not really a mass gainer. Oh well. And then painfully slow progress. That's what I have here. Yeah, I stay consistent. I have been tracking my gym progress every Sunday. I don't know if I told you this, but every Sunday I will take measurements, right? And you would just see like small, minute movements. Like I think in a month my arms grew by 0.325 inches, so that was fun. But I will still keep going to the gym, of course. Gym fitness is a lifestyle for me. So now this next section, the women. Now this first thing I said, a solid man, but not enough. And this is really just kind of how I am seen, which I believe, of course, most guys often fall into this. Like I actually this Mercedes, she was telling me about how one of her coworkers apparently, unfortunately, his girlfriend cheated on him and like proceeded to tell him. And but she was telling me like, oh, he was such a nice guy. How could this happen to him? And I was like, well, I'm sure he was a nice guy. Unfortunately, this is kind of the world that we live in. And the thing is, I will never look down. Well, there is nothing wrong with, I guess, I don't know. I'm like so tired. No, I'm not tired, but my mind is like stunted. Let me drink some water. That might help. Anyways, the thing is that it's, how did I say this without sounding like egotist? You know, I'm just gonna say, women enjoy being around me, right? They often can sometimes even confide in me in some way. I've never really understood it, but they do. But the thing is that won't let them or make them want to, I guess, want me essentially. And to be honest, I didn't expect to be saying this, at least not so soon, but I am to blame for this. Of course, if you take accountability for yourself, you will probably make it far in life. But I am to blame for this. And the reason why is because I would never really make it clear that I am into them, I guess. Now, I guess there's a couple of reasons why, but I would never make it clear. So, that of course is something that we've learned. And actually the playfulness, right? Playfulness can actually help with that. And I'll tell you why later. But what else do we have? There was so much I genuinely need these bullet points. Like this thing wasn't enough. The missing element, how missing is the missing element. Yes, the missing element. So that's the thing, right? If we take a look at ourselves, I and most guys even are decent men. At the very least, decent men. They won't really do a woman wrong. At least I hope. But there's a missing element. There's like, how to explain this? It's like a parallel connection relationship that you need to form with these women. I think we're all used to this, like this road, this line of just, we're nice, we're respectful, we can help them and stuff like that. But there's another layer that needs to be added on that, and that's the whole attraction relationship side uh, and such, right? Now I also say here how women see me. You need to be aware of how women perceive you. Obviously, they see the muscle. Okay, a little bit of attraction. If my hair was with the twist, yeah, okay, this guy's kind of attractive. It's a bit of a personality. I could be playful, a bit lighthearted, but there's the missing element that I said that I don't really incorporate. So that's something that's very important to be aware of. Now, how you want them to see me. Now, hopefully, for anyone that is actually applying this, hopefully you're not trying to be some, I don't know, demon overlord, King Solomon. But I think to put it simply, obviously you don't want to be seen as just a friend. We'll just leave it at that. So you need to understand where you are, where you stand right now. You need to see where you want to be, and you need to understand how to close the gap. And that applies to many things in life. Me at 19 speaking like I know everything in life. Rediscovering my peak attraction. Now this is actually I can't say this is actually where I found the idea of the playfulness. Yeah, I think this actually was. Because like initially it was being, oh, let's be have humor and stuff like that. But I think this is where really everything connected. And essentially, as you see me now, I am quiet, monotone, and all that stuff, a little bit animated and whatever. But there have been few times in my life where I was a demon. Demon. No. But there was like this one time I was in a summer camp. Summer camp, that already says a lot. I was in the summer camp and oh my goodness, I was like a wild guy. I was all over the place, talking to her. I even I even lost my V card. Yes. So if you're seeing this, mom, I'm sorry, but your son was a bit crazy at 16 at that summer camp. Oh my goodness. But thankfully, thankfully, with the power of GPT, I don't remember that much details. But thankfully, we were able to come to a conclusion. And the thing is that the one thing that I guess made me not just playful but powerful. I guess you could even say this is like a junction point for the junction point. But I talked to many women, and like the one girl that I actually got with, that I like actually hooked up with, I was actually just having fun, and I didn't even care I didn't even expect to do anything, to be honest. Like, I think the most I wanted was a kiss. I remember all the guys there, they're like, bro, what are you doing? And I just didn't want much. I was just having fun, being light. And I was very bold. Didn't hold back. I remember she like had this one like black skirt and all this stuff and like this jean jacket. I did not hold back in, I guess, telling her how attracted I was to her. But I did in the playful manner. See where it connects. So there's a way to, and I believe this is how we really bridge the gap. There is a way to express all these things in a lighthearted way, in a carefree way that doesn't put pressure on them. And yes. So, and in the end, if you don't care, or not don't care, but if you're unbothered by it in the end, then well, you can't really lose. So there's that. Now I said the specified training. Now, of course, like I said earlier about the junction points, there is specified training that is necessary. Like, unfortunately, I had the displeasure of hearing advice from ChatGPT, giving me recommendations, and the first thing that's written here is stop over explaining. Right? I genuinely cringe hearing it. Oh my goodness! But it was like this. How to explain this? Let's say, well, I'm using GPT's example, but it was like, let's say like a girl was like, "Oh, why are you looking at me?" But like, "Oh, well, I'm sorry, like I didn't mean it like that. I was just like, just thought like, oh wow, or something like that. All these over explaining it, or I could just be like, you look nice. I don't know why I'm doing this like I'm Hamza or something mess, but it's like essentially, I guess, well, being playful once again, but I can often be in this analytical mind, a very straightforward mindset. So keeping in mind to keeping in mind the fact of not being so straightforward and such. Taking social risk, that's a big one. Like taking risk in general is something that I guess we all don't like to do. But I think of everything listed here, of these 4 points listed here, taking risk is the one thing. Like these days, I know this is like common back in the day, and I used to do this back in the day, but like you won't catch me just if I find like someone attractive, I won't like engage stuff like that. Like at the very least, I could say like hi or you're attractive. But so I just need to train that. That's like the one thing I actually need to specifically train. Being more direct. When you see that up front, it's like being more direct. I guess you could take that many ways. And me being, I guess, the serious person, I'd probably say in like a serious tone. But if you combine it with the playful aspect, well, you could be direct. I think that's also you can even get this. You can even mix that with the communication junction, right? There are many ways to say the same thing, and that's something that needs to be learned. Absolutely needs to be learned. It's very crucial that I learn how to do that, especially with women. Anyways, and then staying in the moment, pretty simple. I can often be lost in thought and such and such. So reading vibes and all that stuff, I hate that word. And I hate the concept. Vibes and math don't go together. Vibes are always changing and such and such. But I don't. It's not really too much of a struggle to read these things. Honestly, I do have some level of social and emotional awareness. So I'm not just some monotone guy. So don't worry. Now right here, I have this subsection. I call it lust, which is pretty straightforward. Now I am 19. Obviously, I'm a young man, but obviously we don't want to involve ourselves in these things. It's quite shameful, if I'm gonna be honest. Even if I don't care, like most of the population does it. I don't care if it's glorified. I don't want to be this type of man, right? So the first step was to notice my patterns, and I actually dedicate a whole, well, I have literally not wrote down, but typed out these observations of how I may fall into these patterns. And oftentimes you'll see that these things can happen when you're bored or drained. And that's one thing. Like, you got home from like a long day of work, drained, lonely, yearning, uh, oftentimes to like fill some type of void. Yeah. There's a lot of things that essentially lust acts as like a channel through. And once the danger is like if you go down that channel, eventually it will stop being like, oh, it's being fueled by the whatever emotion was, and it will just be like straight lust, and then you're just screwed. Then you're screwed. So initially I thought, okay, if we could just be aware of these things, we can learn how to avoid it, right? How to combat it. That's not the case. Now, to be completely honest, this is something I'm still analyzing, still learning, but if you've ever read the Bible, the story of Joseph and one of the epistles, I want to say in Corinthians, we know how Joseph fled from the prophet Potiphar, Potiphar, the Pharaoh's wife, Pharaoh, yeah, his wife, and was in prison for all and stuff like that. But and this is said in the Corinth, I don't want to keep saying Corinthians, but one of the epistles for sure. They specifically tell you and inform you that when it comes to lust, you flee. You flee. You run away. You don't fight it, you flee. That's the one exception of like all sins. You don't engage, you flee. So step one, be aware of what the channels may be. Step two, you run. You flee. And then I remember thinking earlier, it's like, well, how can you flee if you're being tempted into it? That's something very interesting. We'll have to observe that. But that is pretty much it. Now, for personal focuses, we have speech and vocabulary. That's the first thing. Now, I would just start off by saying this. I have not been working on my speech at all. I don't know, my speech has improved in this recording, maybe by a little bit, but I haven't even been consciously aware of proper pacing and articulation, sharpening my consonants and whatnot, resonance, all of that. But let's get into it. So, something that I personally want, there's no need for me to really have this, but I do want a large vocabulary and to sound sophisticated in my speech. And a few days ago, I was actually reading The Count of Monte Cristo. And this one sentence just stood out to me. First of all, I have this sticky note right here. Four vocabulary words. I believe two or three of them were like, I think two of them are this one sentence I'm about to read to you. But we have alacrity, brisk and careful readiness. We have capricious, changing suddenly and unpredictably. Proverbial, widely known for a particular trait. And punctilious, extremely careful about proper behavior, rules, details, etiquette, or obligations. Now, I believe this is in the 24th chapter of the Count of Monte Cristo. And Franz, I believe, is inviting the Count, or was this Albert? Inviting the Count to their estate in, I believe, Spain. Reading comprehension is on point, as you can see. Now, the thing is, the Count accepted, of course, and they were discussing times of arrival and such. And this sentence that he says just absolutely stood out. So he goes, "Shall we make a positive appointment for a particular day and hour?" inquired the Count. Then he goes, "Only let me warn you that I am proverbial for my punctilious exactitude in keeping my engagements." And I read this, I was like, hold up, what? Proverbial and punctilious, I've never heard. I had to look these up, but I personally want to be someone who could just extract a wide range of vocabulary to properly express and explain my ideas with precise wording. And now, if I didn't already tell you, I do have an email list set up where I get like a daily word. I believe today's word is today's word. What's today's word? Today's word, something very contemplate. I believe it was contemplate. Something that I already know how to use. A few days ago was ruminate, right? But of course, I think simply just having a daily word given to you is not enough. And using it in a sentence is not enough. Now, I have heard, of course, through GPT, many ways to, I guess, train vocabulary usage. And one of the things is like that I was told about was concept word retrieval. So let's say you want to describe something, and oftentimes when you can't find the word, you would just use more words to describe it. So essentially, what you will do is you will take your large explanation and you will search for the word that you're looking for. Pretty simple. Now, of course, I've heard other things like with the word. One of my daily words was ambivalent. And there, of course, are variations of that word. You have to learn how to use it in a way that sounds like native English. I believe the word for that is idiocracy. I don't know. But so expanding my vocabulary is something that I'll definitely have to work on. But that's something that's definitely going to be on the back burner of priorities, of course. Oh my goodness. How long has this video been already? 43 minutes? I'm so sorry. Skill building. The skill tree, one by one, little by little. The skill tree. I guess this will be the time where I show you the little thing. So here, this thing will open. Here we go. So this is Obsidian, and I've been taking all these notes. You'll see all these. I'll have a folder of this communication and the different aspects of it. And essentially this acts represents the skill, and these will be the different, like, or more like the topic. The folder will be the topic, and then you'll have like the various parts. So like for fitness, it'll be sprinting and strength and hypertrophy and such. And ultimately, the reason why I use hypertrophy is because I want to have some type of visualization. And this is the visualization right here. Something that I definitely appreciate. So here we have the center, the skill tree. I've marked every, I guess, major topic with like these two things right here. So we have the mind, discipline, control, analytical, personal, typing, appearance, lifestyle. My typing speed is like 70 words per minute. I would like to improve that. Social, fitness, languages. Oh yes, that's not it. Communication. And then of course, each of these things can like be split into their own things. It just depends on if I actually take the time to work on it, which I probably will. Now, I was going to, these right here are the junction points. More junction points, actually. If I could, might be able to explain them. So teaching was to help me essentially learn. If you could teach, I'll try to be quick with this. If you could teach what you learn, you probably, there's a good chance you probably know it. Right? I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Like, a few days ago, there was this Chinese boy in my class, and he's trying to learn English. He goes, "Thank you, thank you." Now, prior to that, I had actually been observing how speech works, and I know the "th" sound is made by specifically putting your tongue between your two teeth, and I taught him that. I showed him, put your tongue between your teeth. Thank you, and he actually said it. Thank you. It was a bit weird to see, I'm gonna be honest, but I was a little bit proud of myself. Now, systems analysis, and that, of course, is something we've already discussed. We have writing. Now, writing, I believe writing was mostly for communication, specifically mental articulation right here. If I could connect that somehow. Oh, I didn't know I could move this. But mental articulation, right? Properly organizing my thoughts. That's something that I often struggle to do. And maybe I am improving with the more I talk and such. The more I talk out loud and whatever. Storytelling, that also goes to communication, but I think it's also more of like a social aspect. I'm not even looking at this web. I'm just gonna say it. Now the core was, I believe the reason why I had this was because essentially to be detached. Like when I was talking about the summer camp, I was free. Like I didn't care. I wasn't like dependent on whether things went well or not with that girl or any of the other girls, or a few of them. I was like more married to the boys. So, but I said the core, that's probably be changed, but being detached, I think that's more important. Physical training, it's more like a disciplined mental thing. And of course, like the physical. Language learning, I believe partially from memory. It's hard to remember, but that is essentially this is the map that we've made. I'm quite proud of it. So we'll go ahead and go back to the notes. All right. Let's see, learning how my memory works. I think this is the one thing I said, learning how to learn. I think I even described it, but learning how my memory works. Part of learning how to learn, of course, I'm learning a language. I'm trying to learn many things. So part of learning how to learn is to understand how you remember things and the different aspects of remembering and whatnot. Now we move on to Japanese, right? Long recording. We move on to Japanese, and of course, the first thing I say is that we have 18 days, so we have all this free time. I'm gonna make the most of it. 18 days. Now, one thing that I am trying to do is set up a proper schedule for learning Japanese, and right here it says mobilize Japanese learning. I'll show you how. This thing is my little stylus. So when I'm out and about, I can write my Japanese on the Freeform app on Apple iPhone. So there is that, right? And then I've been using Quizlet to learn Japanese. And what I'll do is I just learn a little bit at a time. So right now I have like 30 vocab words. We'll probably have like a few nouns, a few adjectives, some question words, and such and such. And we want to keep them in small decks, small enough that I can actually go through them and not be overwhelmed. And I could repeat them. I don't exactly know if this is the best learning method because I still have yet to learn how my memory works, how to learn. But this is what we have for now. And honestly, this is how I learn the days of the week. I just had flashcards. I just went through them over and over again. We have Getsuyobi, Kaiyobi, Suiyobi, Mokuyobi, Kinyobi, Doyobi, to Tako. Wow. Nichiyobi, obviously. So just a little bit at a time. But I've been meaning to mobilize it, so of course I won't have to only learn it here. I can learn it anywhere. So that was the idea. And what another thing that I want to do is I want to have my Japanese learning hard locked, right? So for example, every morning at 5 o'clock, except for Sundays, every morning at 5 o'clock, I will leave for the gym. Now the gym is something you can only do at the gym. But Japanese is something that, wait, I just realized I'm leading into some other point. What I'm trying to say is that when I say the gym is hard locked, the gym is a schedule that I don't really need to look at because I already know what I'm going to do. I have hypertrophy session A and B and this strength workout and that strength workout. I have a whole program set. Every now and then I can make like minor adjustments, right? So, and because of that, I don't really need to spend much mental energy into thinking about my gym session. And that's essentially what I want to do with Japanese. And the reason why I want to do that is for the next point that you see there, the income. But gym, Japanese, and income are like the three big focuses. If I can free up mental space and already have something set for Japanese, I can concentrate my focus on the income. So that's the idea. Now, the point that I was accidentally dipped into earlier was how the gym is a very much set system. I already have all my workouts set and such, but with Japanese learning, I don't really have anything set. And what I'm going to do is actually set up my Japanese learning just like how I set the gym, my gym schedule. So on Mondays and Thursdays, it'll be like verbs. Tuesdays and Fridays, it'll be nouns or adjectives. And then Wednesdays and Saturdays, we'll say nouns or adjectives. And then like on some days it'll be like AI speaking. Some days it'll be kanji writing and such. Kanji writing might actually be every day, to be honest. But and nothing large, of course. Like my flashcards of verbs are like 30 verbs. I can go through those in like 10 minutes, right? So, and honestly, sometimes that's what you need. You need something very small to start to get the ball rolling for discipline. But these are like small, quick things that I can do mobily or at any time, anywhere, as long as I have my phone. Like at the gym, you can only do at the gym, but Japanese I can do anywhere. So that's what makes it really flexible. And oftentimes, flexibility is a great thing to have. So once I can have this set in stone, of course, all our focus will be into income, which we really need to focus on. And that's where we go into this next point. So once again, I said 18 whole days. 18 days, I'm not going to make that go to waste. Now, I don't know if you remember, and I don't know if the audio is muted, but last time I actually had a break like this, I said I was going to do all these things, but I kind of ended up not. And what I'm doing that's different from this time is I'm just doing a little bit, just a little bit, just to keep it rolling, right? Okay, just to keep it rolling. So just a little bit. Today is like the second day of the whole break. Like the other day, no, even today, I just read one page of my book, The Count of Monte Cristo. Just one page. If I could just keep it going, that's all that matters. But right here at this point, business analysis portfolio. I don't know if I mentioned this, but I was gonna do like a business analysis every day. The last time I talked about this was 2 weeks ago, and I haven't done anything. So we're definitely gonna go and start this. I actually started a bit earlier, but I needed more mental energy. Like this is something that, because of course I didn't have any sleep last night. I needed more mental energy to really focus on this because I did like the easy stuff, but now it's getting into the harder stuff that would need more mental energy. So, and I'll probably do it after this recording, right? Now, next, right here, Zenbu, all of it. We are applying to remote jobs. We are applying to local jobs. We might even start businesses, try and start businesses. I think that's the one thing about like applying to jobs that I don't like. It's like you can only do so much, but when you when you try to actively make money go towards you, you can only really blame yourself and be responsible for yourself. So, of course, we're starting small. I would say that like applying to jobs could honestly and probably should have like absorb hours out of my day, hours. But we'll start small to conquer this mountain, right? And then of course, full steam ahead. I don't mind sleeping 4 hours a night, 3 hours a night, 2 hours a night. Well, as long as I don't like crash and stuff like that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Now, self analysis, and this video's been so long. Self analysis is what I was going to title this video, like the power of self analysis. This is one of the major breakthroughs I had during this week. And let me try to calm down and set this for you. Just focus my mind. A self-analysis is probably the most underrated and the most powerful thing ever. Like genuinely, I don't see any I can't go back to the way I was. I can't believe I lived the way I was. Like observing yourself. I don't know why this is something that just isn't taught. I don't know why this isn't common. Like you can literally change and improve everything. If you observe yourself, you analyze yourself, you understand, you look at others and you take little things from them that maybe they're good at this and maybe they can do this type of joke. This also includes understanding your limitations, right? I think knowing yourself is probably one of the best things that you can do to move forward in life. I think that's all I had to say. I know that going into this, even though this was going to be like the highlight, apparently the highlight of the video is going to be also be like the shortest section. But then over here, there's another point I am already changing. The thing about self-analysis, I think I kind of see and I kind of don't, but I'm already changing. I'm already being more playful with my interactions with Mercedes. I I guess in a few more months I will really be just a completely different person. And I think a lot of growth, a lot of learning in general is usually through feedback. You need to you need to go through these things again. You need to observe, properly analyze, and break down these things and understand so that you can improve. So, yeah, this is the most important and powerful thing. Probably one of the most, definitely. And finally, how long is this video? We are coming up on the hour mark right now. Finally, this is the North Star, the vision. This is the thing that I guess it doesn't matter if things don't go well with that girl, the money goes wrong, I'm broke, whatever. This is the thing that we hold on. This is what keeps me moving. The idea of who I want to be. And I feel like there's a lot I can add to this. But having this idea of who I want to be, I think we can all imagine who we want to be. But are you willing to work towards it? That's the real question. Real quick, let me check my phone because I believe there might have been a few more things I wanted to say. Uh, how I am perceived socially. Oh yeah, I guess it's something I had like the desire to be. I guess everyone wants to be respected to some degree, but like to be seen as dominant. I think this goes back to like the women thing, like how you're perceived. Like, I think I said dominance, and I mean dominance in like many ways, not just like with the women, but like socially and all, being respected and whatnot. But I think what I was essentially getting at is that I'm seen as this, but I also need to be seen as this, right? I like both needs to exist. I usually just have this, but this also needs to exist. It needs to be like a parallel relationship. They don't touch in any ways. They're completely separate, but yeah, you get it. But obviously, you don't fake dominance. You don't fake all these things. You become the person. So that is what we are working towards. Do I have anything else? Maintaining focus and vision, the North Star, of course. And I believe what I actually did recently was I turned off all my social media notifications. And yes, I will actually reduce contact with Mercedes. And the reason why is because I know that, I guess, in terms specifically with the Mercedes, they say like, your attention is valuable and stuff like that. But I'm not doing this so that she can like me or anything like this. I think in a larger realization is that if I specifically wish to be someone that can take care of my people, to provide for others and such like that, to some degree, I cannot be the guy that is always there. I need to separate myself so I can focus. I don't like saying this, but I need to a large degree, I need to focus on myself. I guess it's the help yourself to help others type thing. Even, well, yeah, I think that's all pretty much it. But to a degree, I guess if you want to help people, you can't always be there. I don't know. I think the fatigue is trying to get in. Try, fail, and try again. Something very interesting I saw, and this is why recently in my notes I added that like the strongest man is the unaffected man. And I think I even added something else. It can also go with like letting go and being like the free person, the free bird that's just not being affected by these things. I think that like if you oftentimes with pain in life we can let pain describe us, limit us and all these things. But if you can be someone that can go through all this pain and keep moving, never give up, don't stop. Even with small things like, even if you're tired, you will go to the gym and all these things. If you could just keep moving, you will, well, probably be one of the strongest people because no one else does that, to put it simply. Now, as you can see, the strongest man is the unaffected. That's what I put here. Alright, so I want to go to this point right here. This is, I put in quotations, but this is like something that I have personally realized. The conventional interpretation of my inclination to ponder how things work told me that I was an engineer. Yet, on a broader scale, I am an analyst that observes, studies, understands, and builds systems. You know, like growing up, I would be the guy that would like take apart a watch and be like, look at all the cool stuff and how it works and tinker that. Oh, this does that. And I remember hearing like, oh, you're probably built to be like an engineer and all these things. And when I say the conventional interpretation, conventional specifically, conventional being the keyword, I mean inside the box, right? Like, oh, this guy could work this job for this employer. But I think that they weren't exactly wrong. I do have the mind of an engineer, likely, but it doesn't grasp the full potential of what my mind is inclined for, right? So that's essentially all I'm saying. And I guess the final point, the daily reminders and the constant focus on the vision. Like even if we go with like the women thing, I literally, and I'm going to do this at some point. I have to like write down like the type of man that I'm trying to be. Like I was gonna say how like with the women, you know, there's like this and then there's this. Like it's very this is natural. I have to like intentionally somewhat try and get like this. And honestly, I say intentionally, but it's more like me just being more honest. And honest if honesty is easier to do when you could be detached. When you are detached and you could be lighthearted and playful. There go those junctions again. But I I just need to keep focused. I believe that's pretty much all I have for this video. I'm sorry that's so long and that I am not exactly the most entertaining, of course. That is something I will have to work on. But anyways, I hope you guys have a good day, have a good week, have a good life, and whatnot. So I'll see you guys. Till next week. I'll still have this hair, unfortunately. Oh well.